Summary. The Odyssey tells a single story, the story of Odysseus and his family. But to do so, Homer weaves together two major plot lines and multiple points of view into the poem's 24 divisions, which are traditionally called books. In Book 1, Homer starts with some backstory, letting his listeners know who the poem will be about and how it fits into the history of the Trojan War. From there, he moves to a high-level perspective, a council of the Greek gods. The gods provide more background for the poem and set things in motion. Zeus, king of the gods, sends a messenger to free Odysseus from Calypso's island, where he's been held captive for 7 years. Another god, Athena, goes to Ithaca to goad Telemachus into searching for his father. Telemachus tells off the suitors who want to marry his mother and who have been eating and drinking at his home every night. He then sails off for the news of his father, visiting Nestor, Menelaus, and Helen, all old friends of Odysseus. In Book 5, Odysseus sails away from Calypso's island on a homemade raft. Poseidon, however, swamps the raft with a storm because the angered god still doesn't want Odysseus to make it home. Odysseus washes up on a beach. Princess Nausicaa finds him there, gives him clothes, and brings him back to the palace, where Odysseus recounts part of his story. In Book 9, he tells about his adventure of blinding the Cyclops. In Book 10, he tells a story of visiting Circe's island, where his men are turned into pigs. From there, he visits Hades, the land of the dead. In Book 12, Odysseus' men trip him up again. They kill some of the sun god's cattle, and Zeus, who wants to help Odysseus, must destroy their ship as punishment. That's how Odysseus ends up on a raft, and then on Calypso's island, which we saw in Book 1. If the narrative starts to sound confusing when you get to this point in the poem, remember that the stories Odysseus tells in Books 9 through 12 are essentially flashbacks, adventures that have already happened. The Phaeacians, Nausicaa's people, take pity on Odysseus and get him to Ithaca. Poseidon is so angry that he turns their ship to stone in Book 13. Odysseus, though, is back at home, disguised by Athena. Eumaeus, a loyal swineherd, gives Odysseus shelter in Book 14. Odysseus' son Telemachus heads home independently, dodging an ambush by the men who want to marry his mother. Father and son reunite in Book 16, and in Book 17 each returns to the palace. Telemachus openly, and Odysseus disguised as a beggar. When Odysseus enters his palace, 3 important things happen. He's recognized by his old dog, abused by a friend of the Suitors, and challenged by a real beggar. The Suitors call for a fight, and Odysseus soundly beats up the real beggar in Book 18. In Book 19, Penelope questions Odysseus, who is still in disguise. He claims that Odysseus will soon be home, and well, he should know. In Book 21, Penelope proposes a test. She'll marry the man who can string Odysseus' bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. All the suitors fail, but Odysseus strings the bow. He makes the shot through the axes, then puts the next arrow into Antinous, the loudest, rudest suitor of all. Odysseus, his son, and a couple of loyal servants then slaughter the rest of the suitors. A servant wakes Penelope and tells her what has happened. She doesn't believe it, and tests Odysseus by asking him about their wedding bed. When Odysseus proves he really is Odysseus, they live happily ever after. In Book 24, Homer wraps up the loose ends. The ghosts of the suitors go to Hades. Odysseus reveals himself to his father Laertes. A few of the suitors' relatives show up for vengeance, some are killed, and finally, there is peace in Ithaca. Phew!